All right, welcome to another episode of Panakal Podcast for Geeks, the show about good friends hanging out and talking about things y'all love. Man, I got tongue twisted there just for a second.
Man, I feel like you need
I-
a nap, Alan.
I do need a nap,
That hasn't
guys.
happened in a very long while.
I mean, it's just I've been busy, dude. Like all day I've been. Oh, well, let me get through my spiel first. You guys know my co-host, Andrew Sides, and our guest today is Brian Colin, who is the creator of Grimm and other cool products that we're going to talk about, including Sqwürmish. And I got his Grimm
Yep,
hat.
Sqwürmish.
Before we went live. By the way, this hat is way more comfortable than the first hat you gave me.
Nice. Cool.
So I don't know if you like switched manufacturers or what.
They were trying to find the hats and they couldn't source that same hat, so they had to switch to a slightly different one.
Well, this one's got that like nice.
Yep.
I'm a hat guy, as you guys all know. So it's got like it's got a lot of breathing room up here. I like to wear my hats. You know, this is not on that tight. I mean, in a slight gust of wind would just knock this thing off. So
Is it structured 5-panel? It looks like.
Yeah.
Well, look at you. Oh yeah, you work with apparel. I'm like, look at you.
Yeah, I was gonna say I see this shit day in day out. Wait,
Right.
what is it HD ink or is it embroidery for the?
Yeah, that's embroidery.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It looks a little shiny. That's why I was like, is it HD ink? Huh?
I might just
Interesting.
be the light smacking.
Yeah, it could be
right here. Or my bright personality coming. But I want to, I usually try to start the shows off. You've been on the show before, but it's been so long.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's been years and years. Like your beard has grown much fuller. It's gotten much grayer. Like we've all aged.
My beard has definitely gone gray. Every time someone brings that up, I'm like, I got 2 kids now, man. That and lack of sleep and then the world that'll just take it out of you after a while. But yeah, so I was I always try to figure out where do we meet first. I remember you and I, Brian, met at Gen Con for the first time.
Right.
Because,
you were walking around meeting people because you were.
I was actually trying to find a sculptor, and a mutual friend of ours was like, "There's this dude over there in the art show. You should go talk to him." And I went over and talked to Brian for a minute. He had all his creature curation Revlo sculpts there at the time, and I'm like, these are. And I have not. And at that time, all I knew about you was you had done a Kickstarter before that,
right?
So. And then we got to know each other better because we were all actually, that's the same show I became better friends with Andrew at. We were all hanging out at Spectrum.
Right, Spectrum Fantastic Art Live before it was merged with Kansas City.
And then it was just disbanded out of there altogether. Right. So,
right.
Yeah. So now for 1 year, it was part of Planet Comic Con. And then the next time, and then there was a pandemic, I believe. And then when I finally went in, when they put me in a category saying I was with the Spectrum artists, but every single person that worked for Spectrum was like, there should be no Spectrum section there. And I was like,
oh yeah, and I definitely wasn't there that year. I only went that 1 year.
The year we did it was the year they put us in the train station or whatever it was.
Man, my memory is so rotted and decrepit. I can't even remember. But I remember sales were good at that show.
Yeah, you were killing it. I remember that, and then I was not so much. But I just remember like you're an idea machine. I've known that. Like you can like literally present. You can talk to Brian about something you're like a project you're working on, and you can be like, I'm thinking about trying this, or I'm thinking about trying that. And if you give him a couple minutes, he'll be like, what about this thing? And you're like, holy crap, that's way better than what I was thinking about doing.
Yeah,
Or he'll bank off of it somehow. And my point is to say, like, that's helped you, I think, for as long as I've known you. You've moved, you still got Revlo stuff, you still got creature curation stuff, but then you started coming up with this idea for Grimm, which I was like, this is awesome. And then, like you moved away from the illustration side, which is where you were at first, into this RPG community. And initially I was like, well, there he goes. But I was going
to say, Alan, before you get too far ahead, like, were you originally an illustrator for board games, or because actually I don't remember offhand what you were as an illustrator for originally.
So I was never really an illustrator so much as like I self-published comic books way back in the Wayback Machine, like 2009 and then again in 2004. But like the 2004 ones I painted in watercolors, and nobody wanted sci-fi westerns painted in watercolors. And
it's like me. It's like that.
Yeah.
That's like an audience in me.
Right, exactly.
That's like him.
I fulfilled a dream of my own. I self-published, and then I moved on, and I started at one point around like 2007. I started sculpting. I started getting into customizing toys, like the designer art toy movement was going on right then, and I started sculpting on top of toys, which eventually evolved into much larger, life-size monster style taxidermy. Which then going to Gen Con was like, wow, there's all these other nerds that like role playing games like me, and why not put the things that I make into the world setting that I had already started to kind of develop anyway. And so that's how I kind of transitioned from being a sculptor into a world builder into a publisher. So it's kind of like all kind of, and then like I still sculpt and I still photograph my sculptures and kit bash and things like that, and put those into my RPG stuff, and then also now into terrain for Sqwürmish.
You can see that back there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was talking to Andrew last night. I was like, I don't know what title he goes by, but I felt like world builder is a perfect title for you, and game developer. Like you're doing both.
I do a lot. I mean, and designer and graphic designer, and
what's an all-encompassing title for that?
Small business owner.
What's up?
Yeah.
Small business owner.
Small business owner. Yeah, exactly. So but no, my point was like I've seen, when you started doing Vast Grimm and you were over the RPG. I didn't come over to the RPG side, immediately. I was still doing illustration stuff, but I can see like that community is like it's so welcoming. Like if you're like I want to build a world, I have these stories, and like I'm doing the same thing over there now, and it's like the amount of help you get, the amount of people who help you grow your creative side, and I see that in your all the projects and products you've put out in the last like 5 years, man. Or however,
yeah, I mean, we all want each other to succeed. There's room for everybody to play make believe at the table. we're all just trying to be our best kid self, and like moving into that side was very natural for me because I didn't really ever like it wasn't to any discredit to any of the artists in any of the shows I was in, but I didn't really feel like I fit in. No, like because like my sculptures didn't really gel with the other stuff that was going on for the most part, and like the art that I hang on my walls, like as much as I appreciate fantasy art for what it is and for it goes like how it's used in the industry and things like that, like I don't love fantasy art. I mean, I like it, but like I want weird I'm more into like modern surrealism and things like that, more like high fructose style art than fantasy stuff. So I never really like, even though I could appreciate the technique and things like that going around at the various art shows, it wasn't stuff that I was probably going to buy. So
I've like it's the same thing you said. You said it to me for years. Like we make things that we ourselves would buy.
Right.
Like like Brian and I almost we have a rule that we follow, which is basically we don't make products that we ourselves would not want to.
Oh, make all the things that my 13-year-old self would have wanted.
And that's a good way of looking at it, because I feel like sometimes people are like, I think I'm going to make, this product or that product just because they see it doing really well for somebody else, and it doesn't move for them. And you're like, well,
well, it's also
Brian and I did have a little bit of we're at a little bit of a hiccup with our skateboards, but I just think we just don't know how to market skateboards. Like
that's okay. I've got skateboards on my wall that you can't see, and I'm really happy that they're there. And
I mean, they sell not as fast, but I think like if we had like if we were to like say get a skateboarder to promote it, they would.
Oh, that would probably go a long way to it.
Yeah.
Or just like video either of us riding it and busting our asses would be great.
I won't bust my ass. I can ride, kind of. But it's like it's the risk of it. Every time I sell one of those, I'm like, people are like, "Can I do tricks on this?" I'm like, "You can. You're bored."
I don't know. Can you? Show me.
I wouldn't want to try it, man. So I definitely know I would probably eat sidewalk. So but let's talk about so tell the audience who are new to this. So like you've got Sqwürmish gear on, but I've got Vast Grimm, which is this is where it kind of starts and then it evolves. So tell people about Vast Grimm first.
Sure.
And then let's move them forward.
So Vast Grimm is a rules light sci-fi horror role-playing game. that my friend Ross and I co-created, Ross Brandt. The universe is coming to a terrible end because most of humanity has been infected by one of 6 different strains of parasitic worms. And so the worms can live inside of you as you play your character, depending on if you make a toughness test each day. But eventually, the worms will either leave your body because they will get tired of your body and you're not a good host, or it will overcome you and you'll become what's known as the Grimm, an alien hive mind zombie like species. It's bizarre and weird and over the top. It definitely leans way more science fantasy than hard sci-fi. It's filled with lots of humor and like as I said earlier, trying to make the things my 13-year-old self would have liked. It's got lots of like it's my a lot of the writing has my personality in it. Aside from the core book, released 6 additional expansion hardcover books since then. A black and white uh, uh, skeleton crew version, which is like a kind of slimmed down version, so it's not art heavy for anybody that's visually impaired. There's multiple zines, some quick adventures. So created a lot under that umbrella, and even created a card game called Plunderlust with Duncan Hall that takes on the 7 Space Raider factions, which are space pirates in the setting, and where you can play as an expandable card game that's currently at the printer right now.
Nice. Yeah, it was like I really like when I first. So I went and grabbed my book because it's got a cool like. It's got some cool like layout.
Are you about to find your art in it?
I am actually. There it is. And then, but I wanted to show like I'm trying to find a page with some like this like the layout of these books. Right, it's like the first time
That's cool.
And Morkborg's been around for a minute, but at the time, like I've never seen anything like this. Right.
Yes.
So like here's another example. Like it's not like your clean,
not your traditional 2-column text.
And so when I saw it for the first time, I was like, what is this? Like why? Like in my head, I'll be honest.
All the rules?
Yeah, I was like, he's changing the layouts, and it's like in my head, honestly, I thought people are going to be mad about this. People are not going to like this because it's hard to accept something different. But then when you were like, it's based on this Borg rule set, and I went, and then we went and bought that book, which is over here, and then I saw it, and I was like, oh, I see. This is like a cool thing that it's part of the branding for this product.
Right. It's all about doing it like art punk style, where each page spread itself is almost like a poster or like a tour poster or something like that, so that it is you get it's almost the vibe and feel that you get from the page spread is almost just as important as the text that's on the page.
Yeah, I mean it's the whole thing sells it, and my Plunderous cards are stored away. I'm not gonna try to get those right now. I want to show that off, but so and then I've played Vascrim a couple times with you guys, and I've played some with my friends, and I always find it I like the vibe of like I play with people that are used to playing D&D, and then like trying to peel them away from that, like everything on this bottom shelf here is all different RPGs, right? This is all clearly D&D stuff. Anyone could see that on the spine,
right?
But everything down there is all from like the Free League stuff. It's Vascrim. It's all your like expansions right there, and then over here I've got like the Pirate Borg boys and all that stuff. But like trying to get friends to play something different when they're used to
just
playing.
have to trick them.
Yeah.
You do the old bait and switch. Like I have like at the brewery that's around the corner from my house. I have a D&D/RPG night, and we do it twice a month. And GMs come with whatever games they want to pitch for people to play, and they say, and they're like, "This is the game I'm running," and then you go to whichever table it is. And so far, nobody has brought D&D to the game.
That's cool.
You get people the idea, the overall story, and the theme of the game, and you get people to play. And I mean, Dungeons and Dragons is the Xerox or the Kleenex. It is the household known entity. But it's all still just sitting around playing make believe.
Yeah, I mean it's excuse me. Where I was trying to go with that was the pushback was there, but once they actually like played, and they realize it's like D&D is fun, but there's a level of complexity there where you're like, I just want to play, like I just want to.
I was gonna say, isn't the Vascrim? It's like basically a one shot, more or less, right? Like you're not
No,
going to have your
Not
character for a
necessarily.
super long time necessarily.
there is the possibility of that, and it kind of leans into that concept. But more often than not, your characters survive an adventure and they level up. And when you level up, you quickly add more hit points, and it's easy to continue on with a longer form uh, campaign style if you want. It really depends on who's running the game. And there's an overarching concept of the Gate of Infinite Stars that's being built. So if you
Hmm.
can help find all the pieces to that, maybe you can escape the universe before it collapses.
Hmm.
So you could play it for much longer form, and then hey, you escape to another universe. Oh, somebody in your crew was infected. Now you're starting to infect this next universe with the worms and the Grimm.
I think that's the beauty of that game. Like, stuff can just keep going wrong over and over, right? And it creates an extra level of. I remember the first time I played with you was at GaryCon with that group, and like I could tell right away, it's like it's more fun if you just chaotic from the jump.
Right.
Actually, no, the first time I played with you online. I remember I still just remember there was like a dude who was trying to like sell us weapons or something, and I shot him, and everybody was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"This is how you play,"
But like people play often thinking that my character has 2 hit points. I'm not going to survive, so I'm just going to go all out. And then
Right?
they make it, and then all of a sudden they're invested in their character.
Yeah, and that's
So it allows for people to be a little more reckless, um, uh, at
yeah.
least at first.
And then so like you made all these products for Vast Grimm, which is great, and all these expansions. I've worked your booth where people just show up. Your fan base is wild. And I mean that in like they're awesome way. Like
Yeah,
they
they're
buy everything.
fantastic.
They're like literally like, oh, I don't have this expansion. I'll take. And you're like, I got three, and they're like, I'll take all three. Like there's no hesitation from these people, right? Which is kind of fun to watch. And then Plunderlust, you and I played it for the first time at Granite State with you last year. You have all the cards? Oh shit.
These are prototypes from the printer. Here's like the
Oh.
2-player set.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think you ever talked to me about Plunderlust because I think last time we talked,
He was still
is for
working
other
on
projects.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're still
so
working on it. So like give me like if you don't mind giving me like the elevator pitch on that, then like what Plunderlust is.
Oh, absolutely. So you are playing as the leader of a crew of space pirates, a faction of space pirates. You're
Okay.
going out exploring locations, trying to defeat monsters and find loot to try and survive the end of the universe. You can play solo, where the goal is to find a boss monster and defeat them before your life meter runs out. Or if
Right.
you're playing versus, like as you explore locations, the other player plays monsters into that location and you have to fight them in order to survive and get the loot, and you want to either outlast the other person or defeat a boss monster before they do. There's
Oh.
7 different decks, each based on the different space pirate factions in the RPG. So each deck is thematically different, where the characters are different, the locations are different, the items are different. So they all play slightly differently, and you can build your deck if you want. Like you can customize your deck as long as it meets certain criteria. But each deck, you know what you're getting. So there's no like. I don't like the idea of games that are reliant on somebody's finances to make them the winner. So
right.
I wanted it
Yeah.
to be like what's in each deck. Everything like you just need a deck to play, and you can
Yep.
play just as well as anybody that has all the decks and builds their own.
That's
That's
that's a
cool.
smart way to do it, man.
Yeah.
The amount of times I've lost to a Magic player who's got the more expensive card, it's
Right.
like,
It's just I mean that's just
And that's not fun at that point then
no,
right.
because
no, yeah.
yeah.
I've never I've not been a card game person until recently, and because I played the game that this is based off of, that Duncan Hall, who wrote his original game, which was a Morkborg card game.
Mhm.
But like I started getting into Lorcana with my kids right when it first started coming out, and then I quickly realized what a sinkhole that was if I
Yeah,
wanted to really keep up
you
and
guys
really
were
want.
taking that stuff like it was cocaine, man.
Yeah, and I was like, yep, okay, I need to cut it off. And like,
Yeah,
that's a form of capitalism that I just like. I like to make money off of games, but not like that.
right.
Yeah.
Well,
My
before
gosh.
before we move into your current project,
The
like
Squirmish.
Sqwürmish, which is on your hat and your shirt. Um, I was gonna say maybe you could talk. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of your influences because it's interesting. Like you've got like so like for example, I feel like you fall in the same level of influences as like Brian Shutter, who we're hanging out with at Granite State with
Hmm.
his Neon Warlords, and it's a style of stuff. It's a genre of stuff that I used to love in the '80s. It's like that the Muscle Men and the He
Right.
Mans and
Sure.
Thundercats, all that. I mean, my stuff shows some of that, but you go the extra step. You're going into like Toxic Avenger
Right.
and
I mean, like as so I'm 48 now, right? And so it all kind of keeps going back to that same thing I said earlier, where I wanted to make all the stuff that my 13-year-old self would have liked. So I want the stuff to give you a sense of that aesthetic from the time period, but
mm-hmm.
elevate it to modern sensibilities, right?
Yeah,
So it has that kind of feel, even though it's a more current and modern design.
it's cool. I think I think all your products so far are home runs. So
Thanks. I mean, I'm a print designer by career, so I did that for years and years before diving off into the tabletop industry before this. So like, I mean, I have so much experience with making trade show graphics and packaging design and all websites and all the stuff for corporate clients, and I've just kind of harnessed that knowledge
yeah,
and funneled it into the weird stuff that I like.
I mean you can see it. So like
Nice.
when you buy these products, all the package designs, all the stuff you see on his Kickstarter right now, it's all Brian. Like he's
Yeah, it
got
has a
like
very distinctive voice to it.
I mean
All
he's putting it all together. Like I
I
have
mean, I didn't
I'm a
do the sculpts in the current Kickstarter, but like, yeah, I
right.
mean, yeah,
But I mean, like,
and
I
like,
have a degree in graphic design, and I still hire someone out to do layouts for me because I just don't have the time for it all. Whereas you're
right,
like, I'm gonna do all this on my own, and it's
yeah,
like,
I mean, I'm gonna knuckle down and do it because it's easier for me to do the stuff than it is for me to art direct because I'm not good at managing people or telling people what to do, and I
sure,
know this about myself from previous experiences.
creative experience, yeah, yeah, totally. All right, well, give us the pitch on Squirmish, because oh, by the way, congrats on funding.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
let's kick off by saying like it's on Kickstarter right now,
Yes,
and it got funded earlier today.
yes,
About
it was
3 hours, I think.
like just over 3 hours. We went live at 11 a.m. Eastern, and about 3 hours and some change later, it funded at the $10,000 mark.
Awesome.
Um, Unlocked a couple of stretch goals already. We're getting pretty close to the next stretch goal, which is awesome. It is a miniatures agnostic skirmish game. Um, I did not grow up playing like Warhammer or other skirmish games and only recently got into that side of the hobby because
Okay.
my son's been playing a bunch of skirmish games, and I realized that like on my shelf of many RPG books, I have a couple of books that are in the Forbidden Psalm line, which
Mhm.
Vasgrim is a hack of Morkborg, and Forbidden Psalm is a hack of Morkborg as well, but it is a skirmish interpretation of it. So you
Ah,
you
okay.
have a war band of 5 characters, and it uses very similar rules to the RPG as far as how the mechanics work and the roles. So I hacked that to make a Sqwürmish,
Mhm.
where you have 5 characters set in the Vasgrim universe, and you can choose a faction that you want to be a part of. And the book is going to have 13 different scenarios inside of it, where you go through this. They're connected in arcs, where it's 3 scenarios per arc, except for the last one, which is 4. You can level up throughout. You can upgrade your hideouts in between.
Well, that's
But
cool.
this, as I mentioned, it's skirmish or it's miniatures agnostic, just like Forbidden Psalm is, where you can use any miniatures you have. You can use paper minis, you can use rocks from your yard, you can use army men, you can use Lego people. But we do have miniatures that are part of this Kickstarter campaign, just because I happened to meet Saul Blair, who's with Malvolent Minis, at Granite State Comic Con when I was next to Brian Shutter of Neon Lords that you had mentioned earlier, Alan, and then saw him again at Gamehole Con, and then I was like, well, would you have any interest in making minis for this? And then it just kind
They're
of,
fantastic minis too. Yeah.
yes, he's doing wonderful, um, and like he's relatively new to doing minis. He did the Neon Lords one. He's working on Roller Brawl. That's a board game that They're going to be putting out him and Brian Shutter and
Okay.
one of the previous members of Guar. Um, so yeah,
War.
he's
That's cool.
yeah. So he's really doing great things. And with the miniatures with this, I had him read the descriptions in the book and gave him a little bit of insight. But I really wanted it to be his interpretation of the classes and his interpretations of the monsters for the most part, except for a couple of them where I already had some
Yeah.
more illustrations done.
No, I think the miniatures look great, and it's hopefully all those stretch goals open up so we can see all.
Oh, they're going to open up.
Is this your first time designing a miniatures game?
It
Like,
is.
okay, how? Actually, this was a question I had earlier in my head, and I put it away. It was like, when you were developing Sqwürmish, like what lessons did you take from your previous games going forward into this one? Like in terms of like what did you learn from Vast Grimm and Plunderlust and all that, and then like I guess since this is your first miniatures game, like what did you also have to learn for that particular thing that you didn't have to worry about before?
Sure. Well, one of the things that I've tried to incorporate amongst all three is overlap, right? So, like in the card game, the cards themselves have hit points, armor, and weapons that could be used in the RPG, or they could be used in this with very simple conversion. Like, I want to cross pollinate between the three tiers or pillars that I'm calling them of like the IP, right?
Right.
As far as the game design of this, I took a very similar approach that I did with Vast Grimm. Because it is a hack of an existing system, there isn't a whole lot that you really have to learn or develop on your own. There's things that
It's
you have to
already been
tweak.
kind of grown for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's things that I had to tweak and adjust. One thing that I discovered while creating this is that I wanted the worms and the infection to be a lot more prevalent. Because I find that in the RPG side, as a GM, I tend to play it a little safer, even though I want it to like, even though I sell the game as like really infectious and that sort of thing. In this, it's hard. Like you get infected real easy. But you can get rid of the worms too. But like, for instance, as an example, the way I did the math so it was an easy way to take it from the RPG and translate it into this. Doing the math, the Grimm themselves have a Grimm parasite of 17. So if you're in close combat with them and you don't have a rebreather on, you have to make a toughness test, roll a d20, add your modifier. If you don't get a 17 or higher, you've gotten infected.
Oh boy.
So it's like yes, you are going to get infected. Now there's mechanics to remove the worms because they can be sold on the black market and things like that in between scenarios or even during the scenario itself. But there's a really strong chance that you're gonna get infected.
Ah.
That's cool. I mean, that adds to the fun of that world.
Yeah, I mean it makes it the gross and the weird and
Right.
which is what it's supposed to be.
Like, yeah, if you're just running around not getting infected, it's like, well, now you're just running around. It's not it's not half as fun as it could be.
And that's something that was added also because of how Saul was sculpting the miniatures. I never had rebreather mechanics in the RPG.
Oh.
So I started
Oh,
from
really?
this, I put that in, and then I did an addendum to the RPG side, released it on my Patreon with like a 2-page thing with how that can be incorporated into the RPG side.
Right. Oh, cool.
Well, that's
And
smart.
so that was inspired by one of his sculpts? One of his sculpts had a rebreather on it,
Right.
or
And he was talking about different designs for rebreathers, and it was just not anything that really ever, it was never something that really crossed my mind while I was playing the game, running the game, or
Right.
writing the stuff. So I was like, this should be a mechanic. And if it's going to be a mechanic in the skirmish game, then it needs to be able to be a mechanic in the RPG as well.
That's
right?
cool. Yeah, I
Okay.
love it when things like that happen because I've made like in Scott's class, I've made artifacts where I'm just like, crap, I made this cool artifact. It does this cool thing, but now it changes this other part of the world building I've done. Like, how do you bring it back in there? Like, if it's
Yep.
good, you're gonna make it work, right? If it's bad, you're just
Oh,
gonna
absolutely.
take it away.
I mean, the things that you think up much later in the writing process should always strengthen what you've created before. Like
Yeah.
leaving loose ends is one of my favorite things when like writing or leaving open ends when creating RPG stuff is great
Yeah.
because one, you want other people to create their own stories and things like that, but it also allows you later on to be like, oh, I put this here because of this. It makes you seem a lot smarter than you actually are.
You're like, I just didn't know what else to write here, so I didn't write this part. Trust me,
Right.
Ancient Ones has a ton of that, where people are like, then what? I'm like, I don't know. You know, it's the same deal with when I mentioned to Sean, he would tell me to leave like some stuff. I would try to explain. He's like, you don't have to explain it. I'm
No.
like, and I left it. But and you know this feel, as you keep creating the world, you find those answers. And because you weren't ready for that, and just like, okay, cool. By the way,
I feel
you look
like
like a
that is
floating head
a
because you got pink walls and a pink shirt.
I feel like that is a common trap for a lot of people that want to do world building is they feel like they have to have everything written out.
Yep.
I
Correct.
mean, I think mainly because like they look at this is at least like my pet theory is like they look at how Tolkien
Hmm.
more or less built his world. But mind you, like he was building it because he was like fucking around with languages because that was his
Right.
thing.
He was
And then
also
he was
like
like,
an
"What?"
English professor, man. Like that's what he
But that
does.
yeah, that's what it is. It's like he was writing languages, just inventing them to have fun. And then he was like, "Well, I need to have a history to these. Here's the history to explain why these phonetics are the way they are and all that kind of thing." And they're like, "Oh, now I've made a story about people doing a road trip."
He
Yep.
accidentally created Middle Earth. Yeah.
But more or less, yeah. But like, I feel like a lot of people feel like they have to have everything spelt out A to B
Yeah.
to Z,
I mean,
and
I've had several conversations with
that's not at
artists.
all the case. Anytime I've ever seen
No.
anybody develop any kind of worlds
Right.
successfully.
Like even
Yeah.
in Scott's class where people are like, where do you start with world building? I'm always like, just start.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, the anybody that has to have it completely buttoned up, you will never see their work.
Correct.
exactly. Yeah,
Because you're
it becomes like a
constantly.
pursuit of perfection kind of
Right.
thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's better to get something out and other people to enjoy it than it is to noodle away at it and never release it.
It,
Exactly.
random tangent for the world building thing is right, for anyone that is, like, maybe, like, a little askance at this kind of thing, it's like, you look at Marvel and how they at least specifically the MCU, how they handle that. There are so many retcons
Everything's
across those
redacted.
films.
Right?
Dude,
Yep.
like
They're
read an X Men comic.
and because it's just their MO. They're like, "Oh, we'll put out a thing, and if it
Yeah.
leads to something later, cool. If it's not, we just drop it."
They're
Right.
like, oh, that was a
And they
bad
don't say
idea. It
anything
didn't
about it.
happen. Well, if you read
Yeah,
like I always
more or
joke around.
less.
If you read like X Men comics, I think it's the most retcon comic
Oh, yeah, like,
I've ever
comics in
read.
general, yeah, it's
Yeah.
just that's more an instance of, like, not one person or one singular force. It's just more like, God, how old is X-Men now?
Right.
Close to 60-ish, 70 years?
It's like
Yep.
about 70 years. Yeah.
And it's like 70 years of like communal history between different artists and writers and stuff. It's like, yeah, you're bound to have a lot of like bad wiring that needs to get
Something's
Yeah,
gonna
ripped out.
change.
absolutely. Yep.
But I think like Brian's take on just putting it out there. That's once I started doing that with the whole world building. I think it got. I'm not gonna say it got easier, but it got more comfortable.
Yeah.
Like
You just
More manageable feeling,
right.
right?
You just
it
have to
just
have confidence in yourself to put it out and start getting stuff out there.
that's
And
hard
that's, I mean,
sometimes.
yeah, but I mean, that's also like if if you like it, somebody else is going to like it. It might
Yeah.
not be a lot of people, but there's going to be a couple people out there, and it'll slowly grow and build.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always shocking to me. Like I'm learning to embrace it a little bit more now when I'm at shows. But when someone like shows any kind of like like love towards the thing I've made, and I'm just like thanks. But it's like like my cousin was the one who was like you should take that in a little bit more. Like don't just be like thanks, I appreciate you. Like just really
Right.
take it in. You made this
Yeah.
whole thing. And like when I was working Brian's booth at PAX U the first time I helped him, like the amount of fans that came to his booth and said all these amazing things to him, and I'm just like, this is you should have been like floating away, like and like
Oh,
that's how much love that was, and
yeah.
immediately I was like, this guy's created a product that he put it out there, people love it, and I'm trying to like for me personally, it's hard for me to sometimes just do that, like take that in. And I tell artists now, like take it in because you made something that didn't exist before. You made something to a degree that people lot. Like when I come home when I come home from shows, I'm not coming home with just like a couple $100 and a couple hundred sales. I'm
I
like,
mean,
I've
you are
done well.
rolling around in your entire house with money everywhere. It's like falling out of your pockets.
Hey, shh, don't tell them where the vault is. But it's like that feeling of like like it took like I had to come to that. It was like a like accept it, man. They love your work, and I feel like that's a hard thing for a lot of artists, right? You have
We
this.
are our worst
We are our
critics
worst critics,
and all that.
exactly.
Yeah.
Um, because God forbid we're actually doing something correct that we actually like doing. Um, tell us. So you're gonna run. I'm pretty sure you got another project in the mix. So
I
I
do,
know
but I
you.
mean, I want to focus on this for
Yeah.
like ideally with 30 days left on the campaign, there's just a little more writing that needs to be done. It needs to go to Walt for editing, and then I need to finish the layout. But I'm hoping to really have the book itself done shortly. Like by the time Kickstarter funds hit 2 weeks after the campaign ends, I'm hoping it's far enough along that I can go ahead and send it to the printer to get the proofing done.
Okay.
Because like with my last backer kit campaign with my last 3 Grimm books, um, I ran that campaign from start to fulfillment was 6 months. And that's because I
Nice.
came into the project like ready to go. Like I had 3 of the books almost completely done. There were still some holes that needed to be done, but like that's part of like I want to give backers a really good experience. I
Yeah.
want them to be like, wow, this guy delivers. The what he's making is cool and fun, and I want to keep supporting his weirdness because he's trying to feed his family and put a roof over his head with goofy, funny games. So like, yeah, the better experience I can give to get them, the greater likelihood that they will come back the next time.
Yeah. I mean, the repeat customer is a thing. A repeat fan is a thing. Like, if they, I actually had this conversation earlier with another artist who's like somebody at a show told them just I do that individual told them that they just try to make the sale and sell them as much as they can, and they don't care if they don't have a repeat customer.
That's one of my best experiences at PAX Unplugged. Somebody came up to me and they said, "What do I need to buy to be able to play?" And they were looking like, "Do I need this, 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 and this?" And I was like, "This starter adventure has pre-gen characters in the back of it. If you don't like those characters, there's an online generator. Hell, you don't even need this. The one sheet rules are for free online. Just go play it. If you have a good time, you'll come back." And they bought like a $10 zine.
Yep.
They went and they ran it that night at the game, and they came back and bought one of everything.
Yep.
Oh wow.
Because like I don't want to push I don't want to make you feel like you have to buy something. I want you to
Right.
be into
exactly.
it.
Yeah,
That's
you
what I tell
want
all
them
my
to
assistants. I was like,
not feel
you
like
don't.
they have to.
Yeah,
Yep.
don't. I always say, don't push the sale. Like let them embrace it. Let them want it. Let them enjoy it, because then they're gonna come back. Like a lot of my fans are people that bought stuff for me when I was first starting. They have like prints, and then they moved up to like the medals, and then they moved up to like the book when it came out, right? And these are the same people that helped fund the second book when I put it on Kickstarter like last October. Like and they're repeat fans, and that's what you in our industry. I think that's very important to have. The same people that are funding Brian's current Kickstarter, right? So
Yeah, there's a lot of people that are in my Discord that are there for they at a certain point they start to believe in you and whatever you're making,
yeah,
as long as it mostly aligns with what their hobby is.
yeah, you're not gonna show up one week and try to sell them like on a bread maker, like.
But I
I
do
mean,
like
though I
bread.
feel like you could get away with it.
Hey man,
Just have
Sanrio sells like a Hello Kitty microwave and everything. It said they put Hello Kitty on everything. You just got to get to that level.
right.
It's like the
I'm working
Darth
my way
Vader
there.
toast, man.
Yeah.
Except when it toasts, it toasts a worm logo. So
Worms on
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah, there you go. Worms on everything.
that could work.
I was curious to know, like, like I'm not sure if you quite grappled with it yet or anything like that, but like, what do you anticipate like the lead time is going to be on the resin production or like the mini
Yes.
production? Because I know it's not going to be like
Question.
traditional mold and all that. It's going to be just regular 3D printing.
Right.
But I know there's a scalability issue with that there because 3D printing is really good for like small batch stuff, but the minute you're talking like volume, it's like you got to either have multiple printers or be like, hey, it's gonna be a minute.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, so knowing that so Saul who did the sculpting, like on Black Friday, he bought additional multiple resin printers
Oh wow, okay.
because they were on sale, and he knew that this was a direction that he thought that he was going to go in for his side business, right? So he's going to, knowing that the sculptor is actually going to be the one printing them and knows the details and the things to look for when printing them is great. So like as soon as this is done, we will have as soon as the pledge manager starts, we'll have a relatively good idea for the number that we're going to need.
Right.
Even though there's going to be different packs. Like this is a rough prototype. The window is not correct. Like the die cut's not right of what it's going to be. But I'm going to have a common box that's printed, and I'm going to do rows across the back in rows of 8 for each of the different packs that you can get, and do it G.I. Joe style with a little checkbox.
Oh
and then
yeah, that's great.
Me and my kids will put character pack 1 in here and check those off, and then on monster pack 1 check that off, and then I'll put a different barcode sticker on the bottom of each one based on what it is. So he'll start doing them in batches, sending them to me. We'll pack them, and I think between sending the book to the printer, a couple of weeks for the proof, any changes, then production time on that's going to be 30 to 45 days, and then 30 to 45 days over on the C as well. I think over that amount of time, I think we should be able to have things pretty well underway by the time the books and the packaging actually arrive to me. So I'm not unless all of a sudden this goes crazy and we have thousands of backers, which that would be awesome. But otherwise, even if we have 500, 600,000 backers, I think it's going to be manageable because a lot of people are choosing the STL route as well. Yeah. So I think it's going to be a mix of that. And then any extras we'll be printing just for convention and online sales.
Nice.
Should get my printer working as soon as it's
That's right.
here.
I know. Yeah. Speaking of, I haven't printed in a long while, and I need to get, because resin only is good for about a year. I think is the shelf life, something like that. And then
that's good.
I think it separates or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I need to get more resin before I start printing.
Yeah. I should just ship you this resin that's sitting here. I haven't used it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would not be opposed.
Huh?
I wouldn't be opposed.
I mean, I told you it was sitting in the garage. I was worried it would solidify out there, but it's still very liquidy.
Well, you got to keep it. I mean, also you should check the temperature if there's any things about temperature and storage on it as well, because certain things shouldn't get below a certain temperature or above a certain.
I mean, the garage was definitely cold, and I couldn't find this box anywhere in the house, and then I thought, oh God, did it get out in the garage?
Yeah,
and
the resin, I think for the most part is relatively okay as long as it's not super freezing temps, which I know
still,
Allen is in Chicago.
Right. Yeah, and literally the garage was the one day that I checked it, it was -12 outside and it was 30 degrees in the garage.
Gross.
Yeah. It's usually about 50 in the garage, and then in my head I was like, well, I'm pretty sure the resin's in the studio somewhere. But then I saw this box when I messaged you, Andrew, 2 days ago. I saw it just sitting off in a corner. I was like, no.
Yeah.
I know who put it there. And I'll tell you this much, it wasn't me.
I'm pretty sure it was Violet.
Yeah, we'll blame the daughter.
Yeah.
But I do think it's cool because here's the other thing. I think when you do these projects, when you do Vascram, for example, that gave me a little bit of hope to move forward with my RPG stuff, right? Just hanging out with all you guys at the RPG side of conventions is one of the main factors that made me literally be I'm gonna do it. Everyone keeps asking me to do it, and I'm gonna finally fucking do it because people kept asking me at shows, "Is this an RPG?" I'm like, "No, it's not." And then when I was talking to people, they'd be like, "You've already built the world. You're halfway there. You just need somebody to help you with mechanics." And I got lucky. I worked with you met Simon at packs. And I was introduced to Simon by a mutual friend of ours, Elaine. And hold on, for some reason this thing started working, and um, um, he's so good at what he does that I didn't have to stress like mechanics. He does. He's presenting me with ideas to help build the world out a little bit more. Everything just worked out. But then like seeing Brian do these sculpts now, and I'm like, okay, I want sculpts too. Like,
Yeah.
and it's and it always feels like it's going to be like pulling teeth to get these things done. I would
You
like to
just
make
have
a
to
card
like
game.
wait till things align properly. Like I was doing Sqwürmish, and it was just going to be a book. It was just
Right.
going to be the skirmish game where you get whatever miniatures you have because you can do that, and it just happened like things just fell into place properly to make it work.
And
You
I think
know,
it's great that we go to Granite State and you like meet like six people that are like perfectly aligned for what you want to do. And I met Kevin Eastman. I can't complain.
yeah,
But
that was
yeah,
cool.
that was cool. That's as far as it went for me, by the way.
I also
So
like one of the people in my Discord, or one of my patrons also like his very first time running a game was a Vast Grimm game, and got
yeah, I
to
remember that he
sign,
came
sign the
by.
adventure that he ran while I was there, which was a pretty humbling and awesome.
Well, that's what I was saying at the top of the show about like, so the friends who always want to play D&D, when I didn't have to trick them. I literally just said, "Here's this game. I think just give it a whirl. I think you'll enjoy it." You know, and I did ease them into it. I did show them Pirate Borg first because I was just like, "Who?
Hmm.
Everybody likes to play a pirate. Easy enough.
Right?
We'll get those guys on here one day." And then once they were locked in on the mechanics, because it's not too far a step, it's built on the same
Right.
Borg rule
It's a
sets.
D20 base. I mean,
Yeah,
it's easy.
and then I was easily able to be like, okay, here's this other thing, and then they played it and they enjoyed it. Not to say they were completely like fuck D&D, we're never playing D&D again,
Oh yeah,
but what it
I
did
would
was that
never expect anybody that's their game to be
no,
like that.
but it unlocked them to the idea of trying different RPGs,
Something else.
which
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah, which I think is key here. Like when I got all the free league stuff initially, I was hesitant to buy those books because I was like, I was in that boat of like, I know 5e. Like I purposely built mine in 5e because I know it better than any rule set. If I
Hmm.
knew anything else, I would consider something else. But I still like playing different RPGs just to get a different vibe. Like I'm looking forward to some of these newer ones that are coming out. I had another thought, but it
Andrew, do you do much
faded
in the
away.
way of RPGs?
Andrew plays D and
Uh,
D with me
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. Actually, well, yeah, that was actually the last thing I did was RPGs. Weirdly enough, I played some D&D with Alan, and I'm
Hmm.
right now doing a D&D campaign with some other friends.
Right
And
now we can pitch him on
then
playing Vast Grim with us, Brian.
yeah, no, I'd be down for it. Cause so in college, I didn't really have anyone to play D&D, and I hadn't really played it at the time, so I didn't
Hmm.
really know what to do or whatever. But I was into wargaming
Uh-huh.
stuff, not Warhammer. I was like never addicted to that crack cocaine. My crack cocaine was first it was BattleTech,
Hmm.
Ooh, yeah.
and then I actually found Reaper Miniatures had I don't think they do the game anymore, but they still make the miniatures. Cav, have you ever heard of that one from Reaper Minis?
I'm sure I've probably seen the name when looking at minis on their website, but I don't think I've never played it.
It's basically their version of BattleTech.
Okay.
The
Interesting.
mechs, I like the mechs a little more. The mech designs a little more in that versus BattleTech. Like
Mhm.
they're a little less goofy in some regards than the BattleTech ones, and like for some reason that was more my jam kind of thing. That
Cool.
was a game though. That was like that was the one I bought a bunch of miniatures for it, and tried learning the game and stuff. And I had no one to ever play with. And I still have all the minis, like they're all up there and whatever. But yeah,
Awesome.
no, never had a chance to actually like field it to see if like okay, like I understand this game. But I ended up just kept buying the miniatures and just kept reading the rules because I had
Excellent.
all these things of like if I remember like each mech had a pilot and then a gunner. So each mech, like basically, like you can end up getting like your gunner disabled or the pilot disabled. Meanwhile, the other one can still operate as a result. All these other things, like they also had like human-sized units as well along with
Nice.
it. The big draw for me at the time that got me into it was like I guess they're all N scale, or
Uh-huh.
they're all N scale.
So you could
So
have trains and things with them?
exactly, yeah. I was like, oh my god, I could buy like train miniature stuff and put it in with that.
That's
And
awesome.
for some reason that lit up like the inside of my brain because I love like I'll share the latest find I have later tonight, but like I got into like all that wargaming stuff because was building Gundams,
Uh-huh.
and those are like the 1/100s. There's not really like super good things that are like buildings that are like aligned to that scale wise for dioramas and all that, but
Mhm.
like the high grades, and I guess the real grades are the same scale right now. Like the 1/144 is close-ish to the 160 that you can kind of cheat it. The same scales like the N scale, you can kind of cheat it if you're not like looking too closely or whatever. Or I think even like maybe HO or O scale or something like that could kind of work. I can't quite remember. But yeah, no, that's how I ended up like getting into games, was because I was building all that and I was doing dioramas.
Nice.
And then I was like, oh, here's this game that like I don't have to cheat whatsoever.
Right.
I get like the trade is like pretty much there if I go to like a train shop and get that kind of stuff. And then yeah, I just went from there.
Cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I've actually been to the Reaper, the warehouse, I guess, in
In
Texas.
Texas?
Yeah,
Oh, really?
it's like at 45 minutes outside of Plano. I used to do here in Illinois, so not Chicago, but it's a suburb of Chicago, Schaumburg. They do a show called the MMSI, which is it used to be the Military Miniature Society of Illinois, and they would do a sculpture, a tournament of sorts. You could paint, and then you win awards, and you get recognized for your ability to paint these things. And like hard to see, but like it used to be all military miniatures, but then they changed it into fantasy stuff. So I've got like the centaur,
Oh, nice.
Mhm.
right? And then I did a Raceland. His legs broke when we moved. I haven't fixed him yet, but it's Raceland,
Nice.
right?
Huh.
And so like when they introduced a fantasy category is when I was just like, I'm gonna I'm gonna start doing all that. And when I was doing that show, I met a guy who I can't remember his name now, but he doesn't talk to me anymore because I went to Texas. I was supposed to get dinner with him. Something happened with my family. I couldn't make dinner, and apparently it's a huge insult to Texans.
Mm.
So he
I'm insulted just hearing it, and I'm not even Texan.
it was an emergency, man. But either way, that dude had I think his name was Doug. He had connections at Reaper, so he basically called Reaper for me and said, "Hey, this guy's coming by." So me and my friend and my cousin went, and it was cool because we got to see the whole factory, we got to see the process of how they make them. I thought it's interesting because like in my head, I always thought they had like um the molds for those each of those little miniatures like cut out, and I thought they like pour the pewter in, and it
Mhm.
was just like
That was my first question, was it still pewter production at the time? Because I think they're
yeah,
all
it's still
plastic now.
Yeah.
it was pewter at the time still, and the they were showing me the like the rubber or silicone or whatever the material is, and how they like they cut little pieces out of it, right? So when you're
Uh-huh.
looking at it, it looks like nothing. Like it looks like something to the guy sculpting it because it's a character like an elf, right? But to me, it just looked like it was hard to read what it was. And then they put the two pieces together and then put the pewter in there, right? And
Yep.
it was just like interesting. And they have these like wheels essentially, and they have like thousands of them on like these racks just going, and and they're numbered and not categorized obviously, so you know what to find. So it was a very interesting tour. I didn't get anything though. I thought they would like give me a free sculpt or something. They're just like hope you enjoyed your tour. And I was like, it was cool. It was just cool to like. I think the
Hey, you
one
just
this
wasted our time. Thanks for not buying anything.
there wasn't. It was not a store. It was their like facility where they made the thing. Like I would have if they had walked me at the end of that tour into a shop like a gift shop like at the end of the
Like they're
museum tour.
supposed to do, right?
Like I would have bought a ton of stuff on my way out. There's
Yeah.
no way I would have just left it. And I hope one day I can get a tour of like a Gundam factory. That'd be amazing.
Oh, well, it's not a factory, but in Tokyo, fuck, where's the mall? The mall is like in Tokyo Bay, and it was so unassuming because it's like we had to take a train out to it, and then walked like 10 minutes from the train to the mall. And you walk in, it's like a regular mall. Then you go up to like the 5th floor, and the 5th floor is only the Gundam store
Oh wow.
of the mall. And I end up with like choice paralyzation in it because it's basically every single Gundam kit was available to
Sure.
buy.
I
Which is
imagine
like
our friend Joe would just pass
every
out.
single Gundam kit from all the decades
That's
is
awesome.
available to buy. And it's like, yeah, shit, I don't know where to start. Uh,
That's
I
like,
ended up
you know,
walking.
Ben
Yeah, I
and
ended up
Joe went
walking
to
out of
some
there.
shop outside of Dragon Con, about, I think it was like 40 minutes outside of
Oh
where we were living.
yeah,
And that
yeah, I
store
remember.
was just wall to wall Gundams, and I was like, no, I'm
Yeah.
not going there. It's dangerous. I feel like Brian's gonna have like a vast Grimm store soon. Like, have you seen, like, you know, at the Comic Cons, like, you'll see them now that I'm talking about this. You'll start noticing Dark Steel booths, which is Brandon Sanderson's. It looks like a old library, and it's just all his books, right? But it looks like you're walking into an old library. I foresee someday Brian's gonna have like a little shop that's gonna look like a cool, like sci-fi ish,
Like you're walking into a spaceship.
like a spaceship, or like
There
a
you go.
like a 80s like you know, like a Mad Max style booth, right? Just with like all your wares for sale, right? And that'll just add to the branding of your
Right.
your stuff is, right?
One
And you
day.
have like everything. Like, look at your office right now. Your office looks like it, like everything there looks like it's part of your brand.
Well, I just built this for conventions.
Oh, I was wondering why it was able to roll around on wheels.
So that's
So-
the Sqwürmish, right?
Yeah, so this is like one of the scenarios set up. And so this is going to be for Gamma trade show coming up in the 10-foot by 10-foot booth. This will be in a corner. So it is a like standard kitchen cabinet. The top is actually 24 by 24, which is the play surface of the game. So
really? It's that small?
Yeah. So I framed out the underside so I could put casters underneath of it. Yeah, since you only have a warband of 5 characters, a crew of 5 characters, you can play solo, versus, or co-op. You can play up to 4 people, but generally you're going to be like, I'm going to start with my 5 people over here, and so yeah, 2 by 2 is the standard area.
Oh my gosh, that's got to be like the smallest playing field I've heard for miniatures. At least like, I'm used to like, oh, you need a dining
you're
table.
used to Warhammer, where it's like, we need this whole dining room table.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like we're simulating a whole war field here. So bust out the extension leaves.
and this is also, the scenarios are more like story driven, right? So like in this scenario, in this, and it's also in the playtest scenario that's available to download, the goal is to find a key card that's on one of the Grimm that are coming up out of the center port from an elevator inside the moon, right? So every Grimm that you defeat, that you kill, you can loot them, and on a 1 to 6, if you get the 1 on a d6 roll, you find the key card, and then once you get off the moon, you've succeeded the mission. If by X number of Grimm you've killed and you've looted, you haven't found it, then that, like in a 1-player game, it's like the 6th one, it'll be there. And then there's also there's also warhounds that are coming in each round depending on what you roll to see if they come in. So that like each scenario has a little bit of a narrative element to it. So it's not just you versus me.
Right. I think that makes it very interesting, right? Because when you play something like Warhammer, it's literally you versus me. I mean, there's a background to the factions, I guess, but there's no moving story like you just described. That's cool.
With so like obviously like solo, there's not a DM. When you have multiple people playing the game, is there a DM as well, or is it still just the game itself is the DM?
Yeah, the game itself is.
Okay.
So like there's rules for how threats or like monsters will work. Like if you're playing 2-player, whether you're playing solo or whether you're playing versus or co-op, each person rolls initiative each round. And so like if I won initiative, I'd play one model first. then the other person would play a model. Then until my whole crew has done their movement and then their action, and then the threats would come into play. And they're gonna first look for anything within their like closest line of sight. If they can do a ranged attack, if they don't have a ranged attack, then can they move and be within close combat with someone, that sort of thing. So it's all based on proximity to whoever's near them versus like, you know what, I want to have them attack your person. You know, it's more distance based.
Right. Okay. Huh. That's cool. That makes it a lot easier because
Yeah.
yeah, no, we rarely have enough people to be like, oh yeah, like we have the DM and the whole like a whole group of players and stuff. Like even the D&D campaign that I'm playing right now, it's literally just 3 of us. There's one DM and then like me and another friend, and that's
Mhm.
it.
Yep.
That's a nice, easy way to play.
Yeah.
Sure. The thing is, I like the fact that Brian built this thing too. So as long as I've known Brian, he's constantly building the apparatuses necessary to display his products. But I still remember your pro panels.
Yep.
Mm.
And they're still working.
Yeah, I know. I've used them actually. I used them at IX that one year, after the glue wore off. So,
Yeah.
but it's great because I think and you branded it. I see with the pink. So it's like it's those little things that help push the product. So,
Yep.
and I'll be at your booth at Gamma. So
I know it. You're gonna be learning some Sqwürmish and learning that hard pitch.
oh my god, I'm gonna be like, watch out for the worm. I'm trying to think if I had. I think I went through all the questions I had for you. You got what? 29 days left on the Kickstarter. 30.
Yes, it ends on March the 13th. So I don't know, when is this going live.
I mean, I'll push it when you tell me to.
Oh, whenever you want.
Okay.
So yeah, this will be running through March 13th. Hopefully, I mean, we've already unlocked the very first one was an expansion going into Brian Shutter's Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland, a free PDF for all backers, an add-on hardcover book, some of his miniatures, a printed ruler with the keywords on the back of it, and like a printed ruler to be able to do distances. The next one up is the Grimm. The Grimm 8-pack of Grimm Horde is going to unlock. Then going to just keep knocking down stretch goals. Hopefully, in the upcoming weeks.
Do you think also once the Kickstarter closes out, I assume you're not going to have this by Gen Con, but I assume you'll have it at PAX.
I'm going to push hard to have this at Gen Con.
Okay, that would be amazing.
Yeah, that's part of me trying to get the book done, finished. Like, yeah, that's my goal is to have it out to backers. I have it listed as September, but my real goal is to mail it out to backers in July so that I can have it in August for Gen Con.
Oh, giving away the secrets. People are gonna get too antsy.
I mean, you know,
like that one guy. Should you even mention him?
Nah, they're gone.
Good. What's that line? They hate us because they ain't us.
I've not heard that line.
I don't know. I'm too
It's
old
from that
for
movie with James Franco and oh, what's the other guy's name? Where they go to like North Korea, the comedy.
Yes, I know which one you're talking about now, but I can't remember.
But you know, he has that line where it says they hate us because they ain't us. Whatever. I'm well, I'm glad that was taken care of. I think it's stupid.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just looking at the Kickstarter again.
What's he at now?
It's like $143 away from the next stretch goal.
Yeah.
It's like, will it happen before I go to bed? I mean, I've been up since 5:30 my time. Or should I just wake up at 5:30 again and then hope that it's crested that 16,000 and
I mean, it's 10 o'clock by you, right?
Yeah.
It might happen in 2 hours. It might actually happen in
an hour. Could. Yeah. It very well could.
I mean, or you can just worry about it tomorrow.
I mean, I probably should stay up and like take a screenshot at 11 so that I know what it is like 12 hours in.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's make sure you get some sleep. I mean, Brian was up at 5:30 by choice. I was up at 5:30 not by choice.
Yeah. Well, my alarm was set for 5:30. I think I woke up a little before it because
Yeah.
old man syndrome.
I mean, I sleep in such a way now. If the kids wake me up, I think it's just time to get up. Like,
Yep.
like I woke up at 5:30, and I thought it was, I set my alarm for 6:37. I have two alarms, and I thought, oh, it's time to get up. And then I looked. I was like, man, it's really dark in here still. Like,
Oh my goodness.
it's not
Oh
time.
no.
And they have a snow day tomorrow because apparently there's a snowstorm coming into Chicago.
Yeah, you were telling me.
They're saying
Gross.
10 inches. So
Damn.
yeah. Okay. So have we hit all the questions with Brian? I think we have. So we're gonna move us into the last part of our show, which is unless there's anything else you want to talk about, Brian, that we haven't touched. I think I
No,
hit
I mean, yeah, no, I'm good.
I mean, in the case of Brian, I would say go help Sqwürmish fund as high as it can because Brian's definitely got I guarantee he's got 6 projects in the chamber just waiting to go.
Plus, not only will this help it get it made, but it'll also help feed me and my family and put a roof over my head. All the good things. Because I as much as I love making these things, I also do it as a job.
This is a job. Yeah.
Listen,
This is
you
all Brian
fund
does.
Brian, you know where that money's going to. You
Right.
fund Lorcana, where the hell is that going to? Someone in
Right.
Disney. You can't even tell.
That's the pitch, Brian. Like when you do the next reel, just be like, you fund me, it all comes to me. You're putting your money into magic, it goes to them. Whatever.
It goes to some random Hasbro executive. Yeah.
Right.
I can't trash talk Hasbro. I work for them, so
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, whatever.
Yeah, but no. This is really great. It's cool that it got funded so quickly. Is this compared to the other ones? Was this the fastest that it got funded for you?
So they're really hard to compare because my last campaign that I ran had like a $5,000 goal.
Right? Oh, right. So
yeah,
much lower ceiling and stuff.
Yeah. So they're so variable, and also with this being my first Sqwürmish game, I can't really it's hard for me to compare them apples to apples from one another. If it was like an RPG campaign, it'd be a lot easier.
Right.
Because it's this is a new audience for me. Some of it's going to be a crossover from the Vast Grimm audience, but also a lot of it's going to be new people.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess you don't have a whole lot of people that are maybe necessarily into RPGs would want to cross over onto this threshold.
Right.
Necessarily.
Yeah, you're probably getting a mix. You're getting a bunch of people who actually are either fans or also people who play things like Sqwürmish games, or what do they call those?
Sqwürmish games.
Yeah, I said Sqwürmish. I realized.
I know. That's how I did it.
It's in my head. Yeah, like people who play Warhammer and like X-wing and stuff like that. Those people are probably seeing this, going, "Oh, that's interesting. I want to try that." And then I think when people play it like a Gamma or Gen Con, hopefully, and stuff like that, it'll be very easy for you to sell the product.
Oh yeah,
because
this is
physically seeing it is one of the best ways to do the thing. So, good job, man. Super proud of you.
Definitely. Yeah. Congratulations, dude.
Thank you very much.
Awesome.
So I'm gonna move us into the last portion of the show, which most people who watch the show know is we talk about something cool, something new, something unique that we thought was fun. Any one of us can start. I don't know, Brian, if you had time to.
I did, and I had something. This isn't super new, but it
doesn't have to be new.
Always fun. I grabbed one of the books off my shelf, which is Knock #4, which is it's a bric-a-brac old school gaming book that collects a lot of different online articles, tables, various things to be used in all sorts of RPGs. Anything from D&D to other things, a lot of essays, things like that by a lot of different creators. This is issue 4. It's everything that these folks put out is fantastic by the Merry Mushmen. They have a retro modern aesthetic when it comes to layout. All their stuff harkens back to an old school vibe, but has very modern sensibilities. So I would, if you're into RPGs at all.
So what kind of stuff is in a book like that for like RPGs and all that? Is it like new characters, storylines, items, ancillary stuff, rules, etc.?
Yes, all of that, and then
Okay.
some essays on like let's see. Here's one. Let's see. The Sword Librarian. Hello, fighter. Do you seek an edge? I have a few that may accrue some victories to your pledge. And it goes on, and then there's a handful of different swords that you could incorporate into your game. Or
That's cool. What is that book called?
it's called Knock,
I have to look
As
and
that
in
this
up.
is
like
issue 4.
Knock, or how's it
Yep,
spelled?
Knock.
Okay.
The Merry
It's by the
Mushman.
Merry Mushman.
Okay. That sounds very interesting.
They've put out 4 so far, and they're just filled with so much great inspiration.
Hmm. Nice. I had no idea those existed.
I didn't either. It's the first time I've seen that.
Yeah.
I didn't have. Oh, why did Brian's whole world go dark red?
Oh. And I think he
I
froze?
think he's frozen.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. I mean, on the plus side, we got to the end of the interview.
True.
uh,
Oh
well,
my gosh.
let's give him a minute. Let's see if he comes back.
All right. We can yeah, if anything, we can cut this part or something.
Oh, his power just flickered.
Oh. Uh-oh. So wait, did he get booted and everything?
I think so.
Okay. Well, you want to just wrap up then?
I'm asking him.
Okay. Because we could do one more.
He said he's waiting to see if the internet comes back.
We could wait around. And then
Yeah, like I'm gonna send him a photo of this. I'm like, your whole screen went red.
yeah, like I thought it was like I thought he did like a a mood change or something. Oh, I'll grab my Gundam that I'm gonna share.
Oh, you started building it, huh? Good job.
No, I have not started building it yet, but
This is what I built the elf for it.
it's a big fucking box.
No shit, that is a huge box. What? Wait, is that an HG?
No, it's master grade, but it's
Oh,
one
master grade.
100.
That's awesome.
Oh,
there he is.
there you
Yeah.
are.
Sorry about that.
Snowstorm over there too.
No, no worries.
I don't like. It's raining outside, but
So like the photo I sent you, like all you're talking in the middle, you talking, it just went red.
Yeah, the whole script. Yeah, the
whoa.
whole lighting. It's like you changed your lighting.
wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. I was like, Brian just went total evil on us. What's going on? What I was gonna say was, I have a habit of always forgetting about this segment, but I have been playing this, and I was talking to Andrew about this last night. Um, it's a little handheld device.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's tiny, right? Like here's the palm of my hand, so you can get an idea how small it is. It's called an RGB10X. RGB10X by Powkiddy. POWKIDDY. You can get it for like
So
$50, $60.
So I
this one was
asked my wife about that. And apparently, that is one of the ones she has been looking at.
There you go.
when
And then
when I mentioned it, I was like, "Oh yeah." She's like, "Oh yeah." So I've been researching that one. I was like, "Oh okay, never
this
mind
one's
that."
great. I've been carrying it around with me for about I have a bunch of retro handhelds. With this one, I've been carrying around for about 2 weeks now. Whenever I go to my kids' dance lessons or whatever, I just been playing.
So what
It's
can you
got-
play on it?
So this one's got Neo Geo games. It's got PlayStation, PSP.
Nice.
It's got some retro games. It's got arcade games. Capcom. Apparently, Capcom's popular. It's got another set of MAME, which are arcade games. Family Computer, which I don't really know what that is.
Famicom.
Super Famicom is on here. So
Yeah, the Family Computer is the original. It basically
it's the original.
NES.
Oh, I said at the top, Famicom, and then NES, Super NES, Nintendo 64, Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, DS. It only has 9 DS games, so not so much there. Mega Drive by Sega. I don't remember that. Genesis,
Sega.
Game Gear, Neo Geo, which was on my. We're back to Neo Geo. I used to love playing Metal Slug, and that's what I've been playing on here. But
Cool.
I shared another one in the private server we're all in earlier. You can get something similar to this for about $40, and I think if you're trying to get into like retro handhelds for the first time, something like this is perfect. Like it's not complex. You don't have to trick it out. Like they'll tell you to like some people say uninstall the OS that's on here and put in Onion, I think it's called or whatever. Don't do any of that. Just play the OS that comes stock. Like if you don't know what you're doing, you fuck it up. You know, and it's decent. Like I've been, like I said, I mean, it's got a good battery life. I've been using it for, you usually have to charge it if you play enough on this. You usually have to charge every day and a half or so. So, but I mean, the one I posted in the private server for $40, I think it's worth it because if it lasts a year and it breaks, you only spend $40 on it. I'm thinking about getting something like this for my kids, but at the moment my wife doesn't want them. So, but yeah, that's that's what I want to talk about.
Cool. What you got, Andrew?
I got this. Speaking of Gundam, I got this. I haven't built it yet because I have not had time. But I got a. This is a master grade. Huh?
It is insane.
Oh yeah, no, it's a master grade version 3.0 of the RX-78 Gundam, like from the original series and all that. They always, whenever Bandai updates how their model kits are produced and everything in terms of like functionality and all that, they always use the RX-78 Gundam as like their flagship model. It's like, hey, look, here are the new features that we're going to start incorporating into our models and all that. Is
this the same kit, but mine's a 2.0?
So that is the 2.0 of the real grade.
Right.
One.
Okay.
So it's the 2.0 version of the real grade line and all the new features that came with it. So then anything produced after that model kit has those features incorporated within it.
With the upgrade.
Yeah.
See, I'm just getting. I built Gundams when I was younger, but I never really like. I just built them because I liked it. Like I'd be like, "Well, that looks cool. Let's build it." And now I'm starting to learn more about them. In the last couple years.
Yeah. So like the ones that were readily available to us when we were younger were a lot of. It was weird. I still haven't even looked up into like the history of it, but it interests me enough that I really need to at some point because when Gundam Wing came stateside, Bandai put out a bunch of plastic model kits for that kind of thing, Gunpla stuff. Yep. They were all. This is getting into the weeds, Brian. Apologies on like minutia of Gunpla. There's several grades of the model kits, and master grade is usually considered the 1/100, and that's usually like it's like a sweet spot in terms of like price versus function and all this bits and bobs and bells and whistles and stuff. They have some lower end ones called the high grades. Those are usually a smaller scale, like 144, I believe, is the scale. What Alan had, what he just showed, that's a newer line called the real grade, and that one came about more or less because like plastic has started to get expensive. So they said, how can we take the features of the master grade and shrink it down into like the high grade size and still have all those bells and whistles for people, and thus be able to like charge not as much as we can on like a master grade, but charge more than a high grade and still come out on top and save money because we're not using as much plastic. And that was their answer to that. And then on the far end, if you want to drop a lot of coin, like somewhere around like 200 and up on a kit, there's the perfect grade line, which is 160. So 1/60 scale. And those are like the models are fairly big. Yeah, like roughly I think 18 inches or so in height.
Brian was there when I traded for the one that I have, the only one.
And those are
there's no way I was going to spend $250, $300 on it.
Well, I mean, those are wild though, because like those have like not only do they have metal parts on them, they also have like usually like it's things like they have like working hydraulic pistons and stuff. They have a lot of things. Like one example I saw was like they have parts that I didn't even know you could do this in injection molding. Is like they have like joints that were injection molded as one piece, that they're like a fully movable joint and everything.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and it's like, how did you do that? Like, what wizard
That's
devised the way
awesome,
to engineer that in injection
right?
molding? Because I did not
Yeah.
know you could do that in injection molding to cast a part within a part. Um, yeah, so one day I'm going to get a perfect grade at some point. It'll probably be a Zaku of some kind, I'm sure.
I mean,
Um,
that's what I was gonna trade for initially was a Zaku, but
they're cool. They are
they're
cool.
cool.
They
But then
know,
that
like,
guy, when the guy was
perfect
like, I
grades in
got,
general are just like wild. And then, yeah, just across the board, like, there's all these like resin conversion kits and like third party packs that get made and stuff to like add more detail and shit to the Gundams if you want or whatever.
yeah,
It's very fun hobby, especially if you want to get into like it's weird. Like I got into model painting and like skirmish wargaming and all that kind of stuff because of Gundam
Nice.
kits. Um and to tie it back home, now I saw that Bandai is now coming out with their own tabletop game,
Nice.
yes,
which yeah, which I'm like
and
kind of curious about, but
Right.
at the same time I'm like,
I'm not. I get it. I get the interest in it, but I'm also very much like I just stick to the models. And if I'm gonna spend money on more games, I want to buy some indie games
You're
before
gonna
I
buy
go full on.
Squirmish.
Yeah, I already
yeah,
did.
there you
I
go.
already helped. I already pledged. Give Andrew a hard time.
So
um,
probably a lot cheaper than anything Warhammer or Bandai would charge you.
Yeah, totally.
we've got one.
By
We got
leagues.
we all we got that one friend in our group who's buy everything Gundam. So
Yep.
he gonna go broke
But yeah,
sometime
no,
doing that.
Brian, this is awesome that this
Thanks.
thing got funded so quickly.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
No,
Yeah.
thanks for taking the time to be on. And I'm looking forward to this thing. Just looking ahead still. You got 30 days, so just keep going.
That's right. And I'm gonna.
Also,
Mhm.
since we've been talking, you are now 100 or like a little less than $100 away from 16,000.
Yes. Yes.
So
See, you might as well
I
stay up.
yeah, stay up until 11. It'll cross it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I just have to update a bunch of graphics and things like that. So we'll see if I do that tonight or if I wait till early in the morning and do it. But
Put
yeah,
a little
I'll
cocaine
probably
down.
just clean everything
Um,
up, get things ready, pour a drink, and kind of enjoy the success of the day.
there you go.
Yeah.
Tell
Awesome.
everyone where to find all your stuff.
BrianColin.com. That's BrianColin.com.
Perfect. And that's all your socials there, and the assuming Kickstarter's
Anything that you
there.
need, you can find there. You need to go
Kickstarter's there.
nowhere else.
Okay. And Andrew, where can people find your
Uh,
information?
asidesart.com, links to Patreon and sign up for the newsletter over there. That's pretty much it.
And I'm AllenPanakal Art everywhere, except TikTok still. Whatever. Even though it went away and came back, someone's
It's
still
like, yeah,
still
I
sitting
love
on it.
that response where it's like, yeah, whatever.
It's
It's on
just
there.
it's at this point I think all those I don't know. Blue Sky is pretty much where I post the most because
Yeah, that's kind of where I've been for the most part,
As
mostly on there.
you were talking about your TikToking and being cool with the kids and their dance moves, it crossed that 16,000 threshold.
there you
Oh,
go.
nice. There you go.
Congrats on that. Awesome. Well, I'm gonna.
Congratulations. Yeah, look at that.
Thanks.
I mean, I mean, I hope you keep making the same amount each day. That'd be
That would be amazing. Well, we'll see. I'm dumping a lot of money into advertising starting tomorrow, so
that should
hopefully it
help.
pays off.
Nice. So, like,
I'm
this
curious to
initial
see.
push, was it just building up the word of mouth and be like, hey, Kickstarter's coming, Kickstarter's coming, Kickstarter coming, and you haven't done like a real advertising push yet?
There was a $400 advertising push in the first 24 hours
Okay.
through Gelop, who has done a lot of Facebook ads for other Kickstarter campaigns. My friend Zach helped me do some Facebook ads leading up to the campaign to drive engagement and followers on the page. Also, the my backer kit launch emails to people that have backed previous projects, and my MailChimp account sending out to both of those to try and get people to the page early on. And then I'll send
Gotcha.
another email tomorrow once at the 24-hour mark to be like, hey, it's been 24 hours. You have 24 hours left to get that
That
crazy
ring.
worm ring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. It's like kind of a cereal box toy.
Yes. But I want one like on all of my fingers just so I can look tough.
Yeah, yeah. You get them
With
in
my
like
pink
different
rings.
colors, and then you have like the Infinity Gauntlet of
That's right.
worms.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that'd be cool. That would be cool.
Oh wait, we already
Oh
asked where
yeah.
we can find you.
If you really want my information, get on my mailing list. It's the best place. Go to ancientones.net or AllenPanakal.com. It'll lead you to the same place. But I've been using Blue Sky more these days. It just feels nice there for now.
The skies are bluer.
It's nice, man. It's literally full of art. It's turning a little political, which is understandable with the way the world is, but not as bad as the other ones. So, but
Yeah.
again, Brian, thanks again for being on. And
Thank
Yeah,
y'all
thank
for
you.
having me.
maybe we'll have you on again in 30 days, celebrating.
And see how terrible and withered I look and exhausted from not sleeping the entire
It's gonna be
time.
wearing the same outfit.
Yep, except giant pit stains.
You got
Oh
the long
God, like
beard.
sweat stains.
He'll have made that worm gauntlet that you mentioned by then too. All right, let me take us offline. Give me one second. Oh, and thanks everyone who watched and listened. I know
Yeah, thank you
a
so
lot of
much.
artists in our group definitely listen to us while they're driving and stuff. I've heard some stories. Appreciate you guys.